Welcome, everyone, and good day. It's Lore Lords. It's Thursday. I'm Atlas tonight, and with me tonight is Pat Weston.
That's me.
Weird to have Pat with me, I know. It's a weird situation.
How did it even happen?
Yeah, I don't know. But as you can see by the episode title and the screen right now, if you're watching live, tonight's Lore Lords is our first Star Wars one.
Which is kind of surprising.
Yeah. Yep. Very weird
because
we haven't done this yet because
we're
both obsessed.
Yeah, we both like Star Wars is both our childhoods. We love the prequels. We love the original trilogy. We love like Clone Wars, and I still haven't watched Rebels or anything like that yet. But getting around, we love all the series on Disney Plus.
It's okay to be a loser. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So tonight's episode is not only just Star Wars. It's about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's brought to you by Pat. Pat's bringing this episode today.
Yeah, it's like the first one in a while for me.
Yeah, it's been a while, but you know what? They're always bangers. So I'm excited to see what you have to talk about. So
I just get so tangential. So
yeah,
that's
I can't wait for this to devolve into capitalism. So how are you starting the episode?
Obi-Wan. So the way we're going to say we're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi because he's my favorite character in the Star Wars universe. I love Obi-Wan. I think his story is both beautiful and tragic and low key. I like the prequel trilogy, in any Star Wars movie, you got yourself your main like trio. There's always like three people that you really follow, but there's always like that one main character. In the original trilogy, it was Luke. In the sequel trilogy, it was Rey. In the prequel trilogy, it was Anakin. And I'm still kind of on the side of like, I think they should have let Obi-Wan be the main character. And not, although I understand why because it's the story of Anakin becoming Darth Vader. I get it. But I'm a little bit more on the like, yeah, but Obi-Wan was so young and he was like at his best, But I still don't. It's still good. They're still.
You know who was younger? Anakin.
Yeah, true. But let's be honest. Episode 1 Anakin was kind of a nightmare.
I could tell stories, but so episode 3 Anakin I think is the best Anakin in the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars into episode 3 fantastic.
I think I agree, because in episode 2, he's kind of like, my dad doesn't let me go outside at night,
Yeah.
But, you get, like you said, Clone Wars, Anakin's great, and then Revenge of the Sith, Anakin's fantastic, because he's, like, coming to his own, he's confident, he's ultra powerful now, way beefier than before. But this isn't a Lore Lords about Anakin. We could do one about Anakin because he's got a longer story. Well, if you consider Darth Vader still Anakin, because he doesn't. But anyway.
Yeah.
But this one's about Obi-Wan Kenobi because I love Obi-Wan so much. I love his story. I love his lightsaber. And the prequels meant so much to me because I was a kid when they came out. So like I just liked them and couldn't see the flaws in them at the time because I didn't understand the concept of like too much CGI and like bad dialogue writing, because those are my gripes with the prequel trilogy. For those who don't know, I do have my gripes with like things that I like because it's okay to, criticize the things that you love.
You're supposed to criticize things you like.
Exactly. And my problem with the prequel trilogy is George Lucas doesn't know how to write dialogue. He's a great story writer and storyteller, but his dialogue is not that great. And he didn't have like two of his writers that he had on the original trilogy, because he had Lawrence Kasdan, I believe it was, and his ex-wife, who helped him write the script for the original trilogy. It wasn't just him. And in the prequel trilogy, it was kind of him. So
Lawrence Kasdan is the one who wrote Empire Strikes Back. Like George Lucas barely touched that movie, and it is widely considered by many, including myself, to be the best Star Wars film.
Yeah, I probably have to agree with you there too. It was and directed by Irvin Kershner.
George Lucas had like the least hands on it, and it's the most successful one. George Lucas is great at planning out an arc.
Right.
He's great at listing the things that he thinks should happen, where characters' fates should go, and that's about it. Agreed. He should leave all the lines in between to other people. Right,
and he's good at like world crafting, because like his idea for the Force is great. It came from mythology. His idea for like like, you know, he would dip into Greek and Japanese mythology to write his story. So that's cool too. So again, he's obviously an intelligent man because he came up with this. So obviously, you know, he's a director, and he's a good one too at that. Like, so, you know, we're not trying to criticize and be like George Lucas haters like a lot of people are. I understand why people had a problem with it. It was very honestly like politics centric as well. We're just talking about the prequels. So that's okay. We're just warming up with the prequel talk, but like but that's the thing. It's like I remember especially episode like 2 and 3, they were so politics heavy, you know? And I recently did a lot of Obi-Wan research, which means I just watched a lot of the movies.
They introduced the Senate as a thing, which the first movie, A New Hope, episode 4, starts out with the Senate being dissolved. They just say it as like a side thing. Yeah, but that's such an important detail that gives you. There's so much setup in A New Hope. It's hilarious. Yeah, like. For and if you were to watch the prequels before watching that movie, and then you see that and hear that for the first time, you'd be like, "What? The Senate just got deleted?"
Yeah, because in every movie you see the Senate, and it's always like a massive deal because it's like this massive room with all these species of people living under one area, and there's just hundreds of them, like maybe even thousands. And yeah, that's just gone. It's just owned by an emperor now. But like when A New Hope came out, you didn't get that. All you got was like, the Senate's done. It's like, oh, that sucks. Maybe there was like a Senate of 16 people or something.
Yeah, you think it's like this minor little thing, but then when you watch the prequels, you learn it's like everything.
It's half the plot, which is also part of George Lucas's problem, is he focused a little. As a kid, I was like, I don't understand any of this, but there's some lightsabers, and Jar Jar Binks still isn't very funny.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I just remember thinking, well, he's an idiot. I feel bad, but you know, he gets disgraced later. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, but let's start getting into our boy, our hero of the night, my personal favorite, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Which also, for the
record, foreplay is over.
Of all the Jedi's characters from like the main show, like originally, like when I was a kid, the original trilogy, Obi-Wan was always, I said, was my favorite character, and that was just old man Obi-Wan.
Old man Obi-Wan's great, and we'll get into that because that's very important. Because that's one of the most important aspects of it. Because we can actually continue on talking about those ones too. I didn't even include any notes for Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi because it's like Obi-Wan's main story is basically done.
Yeah, he's forcing the plot forward.
Right. Yeah, he helps like with information shit in like 5 and 6, but that's important still, and we can talk about that, how that plays to his character later. But it's not. So the main focus of this is I'm going to do a as brief as I can walkthrough of his life from Phantom Menace through to A New Hope, and then I'm going to say and talk about why certain parts are very significant as character writing goes. When it comes to being a writer, and like this is going to be low key, like this is like a lesson kind of. I don't want to say a lesson because that's annoying. Well, Lords is kind of like a lesson because you say educational. So
yeah,
actually,
you're all learning. We're all learning.
Yeah,
stuff.
That's true. Yeah, and so that's why I love his character so much because I think he's just the best written character. Like again, maybe not his dialogue prequels or something like that, but as a character, he's just so you just gravitate towards him. Even again, as Atlas said, in the first time we see him in A New Hope, old man Obi-Wan, like he's so almost nonchalant. But anyway, so in the Phantom Menace, not the Phantom Menace, just Phantom Menace, we have a young, plucky Obi-Wan. I believe he's 19 years old at the time of this movie. So he's still like, he's just a young man. He's growing into his own, and he's very, very powerful. And he is already like about at the cusp of graduating, like because he's about to take the trials, and he's been training with Qui-Gon Jinn for quite a long time. And so Qui-Gon already is just like, yeah, he's super competent. Because that's the thing about Obi-Wan is he's kind of too smart for his own good. The way he kind of starts is extra cocky. He's like a little cynical too, because he thinks everybody's below him. Because there's a line in the movie in Phantom Menace when Qui-Gon says, "There's something about this boy." Obi-Wan goes, "Why do I get the feeling that we've picked up another pathetic life form?" You know? And he's talking about Anakin, which is ironic.
Yeah.
It's like, no, not really pathetic. Not really a pathetic life form, but it's just this Obi-Wan is young. It's proving that he's young because he has no idea who the fuck he's talking about. And 2, it shows that he thinks he does, and he's very like, we're a Jedi on an important mission, meh, you know? We're supposed
also,
to be good.
He's not, I guess, I mean, it's hard to say, but because he has the accent, which in Star Wars is called the Imperial accent.
Yeah.
But he's from, I think it's called like Stew John. That's it. Stew John's his own planet, which I'm pretty sure is like a backwater farming world. So I have a feeling his background, which leads into that, is he was an aristocrat on a low world.
That would make sense, like the young child of an aristocratic family.
Yeah,
we learn a little bit about his family in the Kenobi series.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Weird. They mention a weird thing that I'm sure will come into play. But like the way he acts, he's very haughty, you know, and like you had to mention, and he's like, oh, and he's got that accent too. So he's like, it's which is in Star Wars. It's the same. It's like that's the accent for like the core worlders, like the highborn have the British accent. So I think it's likely that that's what that is, because I'm pretty sure Stew John's a farming world.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And that there's a little bit even more of a background in him beforehand. Because, well, if we want to talk about some Kenobi stuff real quick, because this was actually in the new show that just wrapped up last week, there was a reference to him actually having a brother, which was like kind of wild to think about like Obi-Wan's parents and brother is something that a lot of people don't often, especially sibling, would not often think about. But, you know, he had to have been born somewhere. So it's crazy.
Just want to say, for the record, his home planet, Stew John, which I wanted to make, which is why I remembered this, was named by George Lucas because it was asked by Jon Stewart where he's from. Really? And George Lucas just responded Stew John to make it out of his name. Because there was never a canonized homeworld for Obi-Wan.
I'm fine with that. I also love Jon Stewart, so.
But in
I think he should be president. Damn it, you're right. It did tangent into that.
In Star Wars Journeys, they do mention it. So.
Right. So anyway, back to the Phantom Menace. He's this young apprentice. He's super strong. He's very promising. About to get into the knighthood stuff. If not, again, a little young and cynical, and as you suggest, toddy, or was like a little turning up the nose at the small folk type of thing, which makes a lot of sense, because if his place was something like that. But anyway, what other notes do I have here? Sorry. Right. Something that I think is really good about done well in Phantom Menace is the way that Qui-Gon treats Obi-Wan. Like, Qui-Gon is kind of already moving on to a new apprentice, which is Anakin at the time. Like, we literally see the transition between Qui-Gon's priorities in the Phantom Menace. At the beginning, he's still, like, hanging out with Obi-Wan and focusing on that. And then once they meet Anakin, he's just kind of like, yeah, you're good, man. I'm going to do this instead. Yeah. But that was actually really healthy for Obi-Wan, and I think Obi-Wan even knew that and internalized that, because now he was being seen as an equal more so than as, you know, like just like another Padawan, because especially after he said that he's ready for the trials, like once he was like, no, he's ready for the trials, Obi-Wan was like, saw him truly respect him as a swordsman and as a Jedi. And that made him mature a little bit. But it wasn't until the Darth Maul fight where Obi-Wan Kenobi really had a spark of maturity, and that was obviously in Qui-Gon's death. At this point, Obi-Wan, being the cocky guy that he is, had a lot of confidence in his master too. Obi-Wan respected Qui-Gon a lot and had a lot of love for him as a father figure. And so when he died, he got filled with rage, the same way that any regular person would. But remember, he's supposed to be a Jedi, not a regular person.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to have, like, he's supposed to be able to, like, you know, boil this thing down and not lose his shit. But he kind of loses his shit. And because he does, he fails. technically Darth Maul wins the first bout. The only reason he wins is because he calms down for a second, thinks about it, and realizes Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber is still next to his now dying body. So he's able to then pick it, like fling himself out of the pit, grab the saber, and splice him in half. And then there goes Maul to what we think is his demise. In that lesson, he learned, and this is a great example of show don't tell as a writer, where like Obi-Wan physically learns that he shouldn't be going into this half-cocked, and then we see him physically focus and temper his rage, use it as a refined tool. Because that's the thing about Jedi too. It's not that they're not allowed to feel and have emotions, because that's like a robotic thing. As Anakin actually points out in episode 2, you could say that, and to some degree, Jedi are encouraged to love, because they're encouraged to have compassion for all of them, or all of those around them. But, passion is forbidden. Possession is forbidden. But compassion, that's encouraged, and that's very true. Anakin misinterprets that a little bit. But a little bit. But Obi-Wan doesn't. Obi-Wan fucking does not. And that's what's so great about Obi-Wan as a character, is we see the results. It's really fun as a writer to dive into, and then they succeed at this, and then they succeed at this, and then they succeed at this. And that's what you see with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Every single thing he does, he technically keeps winning up until, he obviously doesn't. And that's what's so beautiful about his story, is that like, he is the loyal soldier. He's like I'm going to do everything I got to do. I'm going to follow the orders of the Jedi Council. I want to focus on my compassion and love for everybody around me. And that's all because of episode 1. Ever we see, like, he starts learning all those lessons after episode 1, because in episode 2, he's a kind of a different guy. Like, he's very different. His character changes quite a bit. Still snarky, because Obi-Wan has always been and always will be kind of snarky. He's always got that little, like, the little chip on his shoulder kind of cynic, but he's at the same time still very compassionate, very understanding, and he'll always try to give you the benefit of the doubt. And all of that came from Phantom Menace. So that's like a great kind of hero story in and of itself. We see the young, cynical boy lose his father figure, and in the process understand how serious this job is, and like learns to accept the responsibility and takes Anakin Skywalker under his wing. So then we go 10 years into the future to Attack of the Clones. I actually don't know if there's anything canon that we can see that takes place between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, but non-canon, there are a lot of books that actually have to do with the adventures that happened over the 10 years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, which I think is really cool.
Canon-wise,
non-canon,
there's nothing yet. I think there's a show coming out called Jedi Stories, and I do think we're going to get to see some of that.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be so nice. Because that's a lot of time. 10 years is a lot of time. Anakin, I believe at this time, I looked up the ages the other day, and this is the thing I didn't write down. So Obi-Wan's not 19. I think Anakin is 9, Padme is 14, and Obi-Wan I think is 23 in Phantom Menace. In Phantom Menace. I literally looked this up the other day, and I was like, I won't forget this. And
he's 25. Phantom Menace.
25. Okay, so yeah, that's right. 25, 9, because he's 16 years older than Anakin. Right, I remember all this. Now it's all coming back to me. And then Padme is 5 years older than Anakin. Great, cool, got it. So 10 years later, Anakin is now 19 years old. He's the 19-year-old baby, and Obi-Wan is 15 years older, so that means he's 40. Okay, great. And Padme is 24. So at this point, we find Padme as a senator instead of the queen. She graduated from queen and now takes place in the Galactic Senate as the senator from Naboo. And she is kind of like the AOC in a way of there, where like she speaks a lot of truth to power and sticks it to corporations and big guys and tries to be for the working class. And I think it's an apt, it's like she's like a mix between Katie Porter and AOC. I love Katie Porter. But anyway, so Anakin then is kind of like in his cocky stage. He's almost like a reflection of Obi-Wan in episode 1 to a degree, but with more of a chaotic edge to him. If like Obi-Wan was in episode 1 was like neutral good. In episode 2, Anakin is chaotic good. But he has the same kind of problem where he's cynical, cocky, he's understanding and coming into his own power. Only Anakin this time around sort of, he doesn't deal with teenage hormones that well after he massacres a village of Tusken Raiders.
All of them.
The women
and the children.
Yeah. They're like animals, so he slaughtered them like animals. Yeah. It's so bad. But anyway, it's a really fucked... And then the way that Padme was just kind of like, all right. Like, that's a pretty big red flag, girl. Like, look, man, we all got red flags, man. We all aren't somebody's type, and that's all what it is. But that's like pretty like, Like, I understand Tusken Raiders are pretty like, they're off the land, they're a little brutal, kind of culty a little bit. But
I don't even think culty is the right word, just tribal.
Tribal, fair, yeah. And very closed off.
They're still people, and Padme would consider them people too. That's the thing.
That's a good point.
Padme would 100% consider them people.
So the fact that he slaughtered all of them,
and then she was just like, "Oh, come here."
Yeah,
I won't put a ring on that.
Honey. I'm gonna marry him literally in like a month. I don't even know how long that time has passed, but anyway. But we're talking about Obi-Wan. So where is Obi-Wan at this time? Well, he's 40 years old. He's in human years in Star Wars. That's kind of like 30. Like, they live a little bit longer in this universe and have a lot better access to healthcare. Funny. Anyway. But, so in Attack of the Clones, like, Obi-Wan is, again, he's 40 years old, but he's got, like, the stamina and wits and everything of, like, probably like a young 30s, maybe like 31, 32. And he's in great shape. He's one of the most powerful swordsmen in the Jedi Order right now. He's at, like, I think, is he technically master at this point, or is he just Jedi Knight?
In episode 2, I believe he's just a knight, yes.
Yeah. And a damn confident one at that, because he gets to master in episode 3. But, and like one of the top dogs too. But, again, so in episode 2, he's at this point where he is like, I wouldn't say his peak, because I think he gets stronger still. I think episode 3 is probably his peak, or even maybe in Kenobi, to be honest. But he's definitely up there. And again, in terms of one of the most powerful Jedi, the only people who could beat him would probably be masters at this point. Like, he could take on any other Jedi Knight. And he does actually challenge somebody who would have gone on to be at this point a master, which is Count Dooku. Because Count Dooku used to be a Jedi, but then he left the Jedi Order. And he could have, I don't know if he was a master at that point and left the Jedi Order, or if he was about to become a master and he left the Jedi Order. I don't know what Dooku's rank was when he left. But at this point in the story, because Dooku's a relatively older gentleman, he would have been absolutely in the position of master. And so that's like who he loses against, because he technically loses his fight against Dooku, but hangs in there. Like, that's the thing. He fights him one-on-one and kind of lasts for a little while and then doesn't.
Yeah.
And then Anakin jumps in and loses an arm. But anyway, so in this one too, there's one kind of clear sign that I really enjoy. He's kind of like a helicopter parent to Anakin. And this is kind of is a little bit his flaw. Is at this point, because he is the confident knight that he still kind of internalizes that superiority. And he is technically his superior, so he does have the right to lecture his Padawan. However, he does it sometimes in a way that's like you're talking to a 10-year-old.
Yes, he talks to Anakin he treats Anakin like a child. Yes.
And Anakin even calls him out, well, not calls him out to his face, but calls it out to Padme about that. And that's kind of the problem with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's proud of Anakin, but he's afraid that if he shows too much pride and like positive like reinforcement, then it's going to go to Anakin's head. And it might, but it would probably have been a better idea than being a helicopter.
It would have been a much better thing to go to his head than like being resentful towards your master, I guess.
Yeah. like, you know, when he loses his lightsaber in the first act, you know, like, this weapon is your life. You know, he continues to lecture him after Anakin kind of gets it. Like Anakin understands. He's like, I'm sorry, Master. I try, Master. It won't happen again, Master. Whatever the lines are. Yep. You know, like, he really does feel like he is internalizing it. And he didn't mean to lose his lightsaber, like, to be fair. But, you know, he did. And Obi-Wan is right. The lightsaber is incredibly important. It's the most important, one of the most important parts of being a Jedi. All those things are true. But you just give it to him and says, hey, knock it off, knucklehead.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? You know, call him a joking name. I mean, not knucklehead. That's what my dad would call me if he did it. But that positive reinforcement would have gone a long way. Make a joke out of the mistake. Because you're more likely, that's actually, like, by the way, a good learning technique in general, is if you can laugh at a mistake, you're more likely to remember the solution because you have a positive memory associated.
Yeah, you're not trying to hide some traumatic getting screamed at because you fucked up, you know? Yeah,
exactly. Which is really cool, and I think that's neat. But that's kind of where Obi-Wan's not doing.
And Anakin really internalizes that.
Yes, he does. Very much so. But this is the thing. Some might even argue that Obi-Wan got not forced, but thrown into this responsibility too young. Because Anakin was 20, or Obi-Wan was 25 at the time. And there are teachers who are 25. I had a history teacher who was 24 years old in high school. So, you know, there are such things as younger teachers. And that's not and I know teachers today who are younger than me. I'm 30 and they're teaching. And they're great. And that's not what I'm trying to necessarily say. But he just became a Jedi Knight himself.
Yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't necessarily his age; it was his experience. Right. It was like the next day. Like I'm now teaching at Padawan.
Exactly, and only because he wanted to fulfill Qui-Gon's desires, and which I understand. But Qui-Gon, you know, despite his positive reinforcement towards Obi-Wan, almost all the time, like he, you know, he lectured him a couple times, but really not that much. Like he had what is the be mindful of the living force, my young Padawan was like the first thing he said to him in the spaceship, you know, but he just kind of glossed over it real quick. And, he immediately retorted with a line from Master Yoda. 'Cause it's like, but Master Yoda told me to be mindful of the, you know, the future. He's like, oh God, you know, like he's very witty. And goes back on that. But he doesn't let Anakin do the same thing. Where Qui-Gon would let Obi-Wan kind of retort and bounce back and forth so they could argue, Obi-Wan kind of shuts Anakin down.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, again, he didn't learn all the lessons from Qui-Gon that he needed before Qui-Gon's, you know, early demise. And that's sad. And it's not that, and don't get me wrong, Obi-Wan tried his best. He really did. And in his own personal way, this is why I love him, is that he's one of the most powerful Jedi up at this point in Attack of the Clones. He's already up there. He's about to become a Jedi Master. There's only 3 years between Attack of the Clone and Revenge of the Sith. So within that 3 years, he goes from that level of Jedi to when he's 43 years old, he becomes a Jedi Master and on the Council. You know, just because I don't know if I don't think all masters are on the council, you know, like I think that's
absolutely not. So to become a master, you have to finish training a Padawan. That's all it is.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I was like, I forget what the qualifications are for that. And honestly, if I ever knew
also, if we're done with Attack of the Clones and transitioning into Return of the Sith.
We're going to talk about a very important series.
Yeah. Well, sorry. That doesn't matter. Yeah. Finishing Attack of the Clones is when the war starts. And that was what I was going to say. That changes a lot of the way people progress and learn and go through the ranks of the Jedi Order. Right.
Right. And that's actually no exception to Obi-Wan, because at the beginning of we're not actually done with Attack of the Clones. I have a couple more points that I wanted to talk about. And one of them was he definitely didn't want to be on Kamino. I love this scene when he's talking to Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino, because he's so fucking uncomfortable. He's like, what are we talking? I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm expected to be here. Like, I just love the line of, like, that's why I'm here. Like,
yeah.
Like, he's so uncomfortable, and I love it. Because he has no fucking idea what's going on. And then all of a sudden he finds out that there's a massive army. How many units were done at the time? I think he said 10,000 units were ready, or no, more than that.
It's a number.
It's a big number.
A high
like
number.
100. Yeah, and then he says 1 million more well on the way. So like there was like they were printing out a massive army for the Republic that no one fucking knew about. Like, because when he messages Mace Windu and Yoda, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, no one put in a requisition order for an army, let alone a clone army, you know, because he was just trying to hunt down a bounty hunter. There was a Jango Fett sent Zamwazel to kill Padme.
200,000.
Obi-Wan. Yeah. 200,000 units.
That's the number, yeah.
With 1 million more well on the way, which is just crazy to think about. But it's very convenient that this was going on. Also, I want to know what happened to Master Sifo Dyas, because Jedi Master Sifo Dyas was the one who put in the requisition order for the clones, but he was killed 10 years ago. So he died around the exact same time that Qui-Gon Jinn did, and Anakin became a Padawan. So, like, that's really interesting, and I want to know about that. They better put that in the show, because that seems like such an important detail that was totally glossed over. Yeah,
it's Sifo Dyas is a thing that we do know a little bit about. He died I can't remember which planet it was, but he died in the official file negotiating peace between two like tribal nations.
Oh, okay.
And he got killed in the process of that mission. But I think that's not what happened.
Well, wasn't it Dooku who did it?
I think Dooku killed him, yes. And then modified the records to make it seem like that was what happened.
Yeah. Because, like, the whole thing was a setup from the beginning, you know, like Palpatine was always kind of pulling these strings.
Yeah, I think Sifo Dyas was being used for the Clone Wars, making the clone army, you know, which is Palpatine's plan.
Yeah.
And Darth Tyrannus ended up being discovered by him.
Right.
So Dooku, so I don't know why I called him Tyrannus. Dooku, well, that's his Darth name, yeah. Dooku ended up killing him because he got discovered, and I think used his current mission as like a way to like cover it up.
That makes a lot of sense. I'd like to see that because I want to know, because again, I just know we died. But again, the clones were ordered again by, like, in reality, they were ordered by Palpatine through some chain. We know that. And it was a long time ago, because it was the time when they were within the 10 years politically between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. There was just a lot of growing tensions between like the Trade Federation, because they were garnering support and became the Separatists basically. Mm-hmm. And then in Attack of the Clones is when the levee breaks and they go to war. So like, and but you're right. You brought up a good point a few minutes ago about how like when the war took off, it changed everything. Because at the point of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme all in the Geonosian pit, like, they didn't know what was going to happen with the clones. They didn't think the clones were going to suddenly show up. You know, they had no idea. They were just like, hey, we're kind of stuck in this pit. We have to just do our best to survive. And then they were lucky when all of a sudden the Republic shows up. Yoda and Mace Windu are just like, what's up, man? Like, Mace Windu walks in, kills Jango Fett, you know, like, and then that's when the clones pop up with the gunship, which is a really cool scene, honestly. But the war takes off at that point because they have all the probable cause they need, because the Separatists were basically putting on display a killing of Jedi and Senator. So like that was all they needed to launch into a full scale war. That was the justification that they needed. Because that's what the Republic was basically looking for. They were looking for the hard evidence of murder. And then they're like, well, there's 2 Jedi and a Senator. So clones, get on in there, you know? And that's how it all started. Again, all puppeteered by Palpatine. But in this moment, we see Obi-Wan immediately jump in to a leader position where he kind of drops all pretenses and acts like super straightforward. And that shows when they get onto the Republic gunship and they start flying toward and following Dooku. In a moment, their Republic gunship hits a sand dune or some shit, and Padme and a clone trooper fall out, and Anakin starts losing his mind, like, we have to go back and save her or else. Obi-Wan snaps and just says, like, no, we're not doing that. We have to go fight Dooku. It's our responsibility. This is our job. What would she do if she was in your position? He just, like, Obi-Wan takes on the role of general very, very well. Like, I mean, he's literally General Kenobi in the Clone Wars and in Episode 3. And there's a reason for that, because he, like, right when the war started, he understood the significance of it. This is not something that he was ever sarcastic or cynical about. He saw this coming. He wasn't like, he's not surprised. So he really kind of snaps into his own here. But during the fight with Dooku.
Just to be clear, the reason he becomes a general is because every Jedi Master becomes a general. And at the beginning of the Clone Wars is right when Anakin's, because of the events of Genosha, is when his Padawan ship ends.
Right.
So he goes into being a knight, and then Obi-Wan immediately becomes a general, a master,
Jedi Master. Yeah.
And then during the Clone Wars, that's when things start changing, and they go ahead and make. I think they make every Jedi who's not a Padawan a general too, and then Anakin becomes a general in that way, and then becomes a master. As we know in the Revenge of the Sith, and that's the whole story.
We'll get there. But now we're going to talk about a wonderful animated series that came out for episodes 2 and 3. Well, the series came out later, but it takes place in between episodes 2 and 3 during the 3 years of the Clone Wars, called simply Clone Wars. And it's I love it. I think it's great. It has a lot of hills and valleys, in my opinion. There's some episodes I could give a shit about and I never want to watch again. But there are some episodes that are just like, you just sit there and you think about it for like a few days after, and you're like, that was crazy. Like there's that one planet where they go to and they feel the Force represented, dark side, light side, and then Anakin sees his future and loses his mind. That episode stuck with me for like a week after I watched it.
Also, just to clarify on the Sifo Dyas things, I was looking it up.
It
is so canonically he did die. It was on Fallujah. He died. That was the planet where there was two tribes battling each other. But he was killed by Sidious, or not Sidious. Sorry, Dooku.
Right.
On the order of Sidious, because they learned about his secret Clone War project, which was a clone army project. Apparently, he came forward with an idea to make a Republic army. They all said no. He said, "You guys are idiots." So he went ahead and made it himself in secret. And then they found out about it, and Palpatine's like, "That's fucking perfect. This is what I need." So he kind of took over from it. We using Dooku, and him took over the project and had him killed with the help of the Pike Syndicate. His body was placed in a shuttle, which was then shot down over Fallujah.
Oh wow, the Pike Syndicate, huh?
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you for that. Thank you for looking that up too, because it's nice knowing. I feel so satisfied knowing all that now.
Yeah, he's mentioned in a lot of stuff. He is This is, I think, discovered in Clone Wars animated show. That's when you learn the majority of that.
That sounds familiar after you saying it all, but I don't remember the episode because it is kind of a long show.
He's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes of Clone Wars are about him. Or focus on things that he did. So I think it's about that. But he's in a lot of stuff, though. Dooku, Jedi Lost is a comic book he's in. Star Wars prequel trilogy, the graphic novel he's in. Stuff like that. So he's in a lot of weird little things.
I'm glad he pops up. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to know. I should do my own research on... I should do a Lore Lords on 7DS. No. There's probably not enough. I like how I actually considered it for a second.
There is not enough. But it's a very short page. But I do think in that Jedi Story show coming out, I bet we're going to get an episode on him. I would bet money. Him in person being like where they're going to show his death and the whole Clone Wars thing. I bet that's going to be done.
Right. Yeah, I hope so. I want to see that so badly. Anywhooser, during the actual Clone Wars animated series, Obi-Wan plays what I actually really like as a character, often the straight man character. In writing techniques, there is often 3 branches you can take a character: the rising character arc, the falling character arc, and the straight character arc. All 3 are important, all 3 can be interesting, and all 3 can have a lot of uniqueness. Just because there are 3 doesn't mean you can't do a lot with it. It's kind of like tools in the toolbox. What you do with the wood and hammers is up to you. And Obi-Wan kind of plays the straight character arc in this, where often he doesn't have an incredible amount of growth. It doesn't mean he doesn't grow, and it doesn't mean he doesn't learn lessons and stuff like that, but his character, his personality remains basically like the same throughout the whole thing. It's kind of like Goku, where like Goku's the same. If you watch Goku in the first episode of Dragon Ball and Goku in the last episode of Dragon Ball Super, he's the same character. And that's kind of the case with Obi-Wan as well. Again, it doesn't mean he doesn't learn things and grow physically powerful or more wise as a master, necessarily those types of things. But his personality and character remains like the voice of reason the entire time. And then there's a great arc in this about a potential old fling that he may have used to have before his time with, was it the Queen of Mandalore, I believe? Satine?
Yep.
Yeah. So I definitely wanted to talk about Satine because this was an awesome thing that they added to it to really give Obi-Wan a sense of more of a background, you know? And so they introduced that he had kind of somebody he may or may not have had a thing with once when they were younger. Like, we don't know, maybe when they were teenagers, you know, he was a young Padawan or just about to get picked up, and he went off and had some, you know, it's probably hard to rein in the early Padawans. You know what I'm saying? It's hard. And she was a young Lord, you know, so it's not hard to believe that Qui-Gon and a very young Obi-Wan, maybe like 15, 16, they went out to Mandalore, and who was that but the young princess? Oh, shit, Saltine is out there, and she's one dry bitch. No, no, actually, I love Satine. She's a great character in Clone Wars. She's really wonderful. It's sad, but it's good.
Her whole story is don't try to remove a nation's culture.
Yeah. Don't try to do that.
I think she was in the wrong. I think she was being fucking dumb.
For sure.
She tried to turn Mandalore into a warrior culture, into a politically happy place. So you can't just expect everyone to just be okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's that, and Obi-Wan even kind of lectures her a little bit on some of this stuff, like, but it's really interesting to see this kind of past in him, and it also makes a lot of sense too, because that, you know, maybe he was the kid of some prominent lord or something on a planet on Stujan. Because like, why would he go on a mission to this place unless it was either Jedi business or if it was like
assuming I'm think it was when he was a Padawan, and I think I think this is in comic form. I think this is out there. I think they go on a mission to Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan go on a mission. That's where they meet. And, you know, they just kind of fancy each other. So they just kind of get on with it. Because, you know, fancy Jedi man, fancy political lady. Yeah. You know, their missions were involved together. There was downtime. That's what happens.
When you put two hot people in a room together, what do you expect them to do?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when they like each other. But I don't know if that's officially canon. I think it's an old non-canon comic book now. But it's one of those things where it's like there's no point in changing it. Also, it's kind of connected to Clone Wars, the animated show, so like it's just kind of like it's there, you know.
Yeah. It can be the presumed history.
Exactly, and if they ever were to go back and do that history, it probably would just be the same. That part would be the same. So
yeah, that sounds right to me. Well, I like it, but anyway, it's nice to see that depth to Obi-Wan. It's nice to see that character introduced. Her story is great. Again, like, it's tragic, but again, it's great. And it's nice to even see Anakin kind of like poke fun at him, actually, because a couple times Anakin says to him, like, hey, we got to go rescue your girlfriend. And Obi-Wan's like, responds to like that, like, yeah, let's go get her. And then he's like, wait a minute. No. Like, he like doesn't realize that he's like, no, that's not right. She's not my girlfriend. Like,
well, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where also, which we haven't really talked about yet, is during, because it's not, you know, during the Clone Wars, Anakin and Padme are married. And they got married in secret because, you know, it's illegal for Jedi to be married. But Obi-Wan knows the whole time. Obi-Wan's he's protecting this secret with him. They both don't know that until later, you know.
Right.
But like even the last season of Clone Wars, it's just like Anakin's doing this big thing to hide it from Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's like, "Are we on the phone with Padme again?" Like, just like he says it to him. He's like,
I actually love that scene. Yeah, Anakin goes to such lengths to get him to not notice.
He has like Rex involved to like try to stop Obi-Wan figuring out. Yeah. And just Obi-Wan knows, and he doesn't care. He supports it.
Yeah, like, because to break away from the Kenobi stuff for a second and talk about Jedi Order stuff, because I always love this. I always think this is fascinating stuff. One of the biggest reasons why the Jedi failed was because they were too stringent with their rules and laws. They were too authoritarian with themselves. And that was kind of in part the problem. Because the idea that you can't be in love and be a good Jedi is just not true.
And it does nothing but breed hatred.
Right.
Which you're trying to stop.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the story of Anakin, because that's basically what happened, is like their stringent rules is what forced it to happen. If they allowed them to like I understand that there should be some counseling involved. Like, hey, if you're going to be in a relationship as a Jedi, you're like, think about what the job of a fucking Jedi is for a second. Like, not just like, oh, cool, using force powers and lightsabers. It's like, it's your job to sometimes go alone, kind of in the case of Saifa Diaz's cover-up story, to like planets to make sure they don't go to war to each other. Sometimes you're sent on missions to sneak into places and kill people, like, or stop, or stop things from happening. Not necessarily kill people. Jedi don't really try to kill unless they have to. But like that happens. Like they'll break in and try to stop like an evil drug deal from happening or something like that. And then all of a sudden all shit goes loose and then they have to die. Like they have to die because they get caught in an explosion. It's just the life of a Jedi is like a cop times 20. You know, like they're basically like glorified police officers is kind of like what they do. But they're actually good. Sorry. That's not a comment on anything, but that's the thing. If the Jedi are trained from childhood because they understand that the role and responsibility of a Jedi is so fucking important and so crucial that they have to have a certain type of mind. But that doesn't mean you can't have feelings for people. And that's kind of the big problem, is that, like, again, Anakin was in love with Padme and vice versa. And so, and Obi-Wan loved Anakin too, and Padme as well, but like as family. To them, he was his family. Like he says it in Revenge of the Sith. You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you, you know? Like
just to make a little Star Wars comment of my own thought.
Yes.
I think the Sith were a better order than the Jedi. The problem is with both, like you kind of mentioned, they were a little too authoritarian Jedi, where the Sith were a little too anarchist. Right. They were too extreme on both sides. The Sith were just okay with you murdering your master.
Right, and that's,
you know what I mean? Cool. Like, no, there needs to be some limits, but the fact that Sith let people do whatever the fuck they wanted to do, like freedom-wise, I think it's just a better organization. Where Jedi is a little too culty.
Right. Well, it's the idea that like if you go in any one direction, in terms of like laws and rules to follow, it's gonna go bad. Like if you just have pure capitalism, it's not gonna go well. Pure communism, it's not gonna go well. Pure socialism, it's not gonna go well. It's about understanding what thing needs what type of governance. You know what I mean?
You don't want to be like, dark and light. You want to be gray.
Yeah, even though I don't think gray Jedis are a canon thing, but
they are.
I mean,
Qui-Gon is the example of it.
Qui-Gon, you said?
Qui-Gon is the first Grey Jedi character we meet, and the last is Rey.
Right, Rey. Yeah, she kind of goes that way. I just don't think I don't know if the term Grey Jedi is canonized, but what they are is. Yeah. Like what they are, yes. I understand what you're saying. Like what they are. But where was I? I totally lost track of what I was saying. Oh no.
I think Grey Jedi is just a fan invented term. I don't think it's ever been used. Just as a way to describe neutral Jedi, which is, people who just don't go too far either way.
Yeah, right. But Qui-Gon's actually a perfect example of that. I honestly never really thought about it.
Yeah, no, he's super anti-Jedi Order. Like, he's super against them. He's like, you guys are way too strict. Like, you guys are stupid.
Yeah, he's kind of like a hippie, you're right.
Yeah.
He's hippie Jedi. That's one reason probably why Darth Maul tears him apart.
They also, now, since the Ahsoka book, it changed a big canon thing, or canonized a big feature, which is your lightsaber color reflects your personality and your soul. And a lot of the green saber people are less chill with Jedi Order. That's just kind of how it works out.
That makes sense with Anakin or Luke Skywalker
Luke
too,
because he
transitions to green. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I never even thought about it. I just like blue because I like blue. I like things that glow blue.
Yeah, blue is like you're basically you're just light side heavy.
Yeah. What about purple? What's purple mean?
Purple is a Sith color.
Then why the hell does Mace Windu have it?
He's more dark than any other character in the Jedi Order. He's super dark. Like, and I'm not talking racial. He's very. He's just to be clear. I'm not being a racist thing. He's a very.
Yeah, I didn't think you were.
Yeah, he's a very, very intimidating, a very aggressive, and a very serious.
Very true.
He could be a Sith. He could be like a light side Sith. You know what I mean? Like that's basically like what he is. And in the canon, purple has to do with that kind of thing. Like purple is like you're reaching red.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense because he is a brutal motherfucker. Took down Jango Fett without a single shred of remorse. Almost killed Palpatine without a. Well, he had a problem, but he almost beat him. Like,
So
do you think Palpatine would have been able to beat Mace Windu if
Anakin
didn't show up?
Absolutely. Palpatine's a Sith Lord. So? There's no chance.
Right.
He would destroy Windu. Especially then. He was way stronger than he was at the end of the movies.
Fair enough.
So a purple lightsaber is a combination of good and evil. That's what it says.
Makes sense.
It says it's so rare because 90% of Star Wars characters are loyal to one side of the Force.
But then you have Mace Windu, who's just kind of like he's like the type, I learned it so I don't have to use it kind of thing.
Yeah, it says it's a moral ambiguity, reconstruction, and healing. Those who wield purple lightsabers have a strong connection to light and dark side. Purple color is a combination of good and evil. That's what I just read. And it says, generally in the past, most purple lightsaber users are Sith Empire members.
That's crazy. And then you got Mace Windu out there just like, I like it.
It's interesting. And now we also have a black, which is a weird...
The Darksaber?
Yeah, it's a weird situation with that one. Granted, it's like a legendary saber, but I think from what I remember, black means honor and duty. That's all you care about.
Makes sense for Mandalore.
Yeah, because like Mandalore put his duty over everything else, so he didn't care about light or dark side as long as his duty was paramount, which is why his saber turned black, and it's unique in that way.
And it's old as hell.
Yeah.
It does not look like any of the new lightsabers that we have.
No, it's a pretty old one. It's like post Kylo Ren saber age, but like pretty early, but pre-modern lightsaber.
Wait, Kylo didn't make his lightsaber?
No, he found it on Malachor. Yeah, I didn't know that. You should watch Rebels, dude.
I really should.
They find more of them in Rebels.
That's crazy.
No, they're old. They're old. Like it's like the oldest saber from like they're pre like Old Republic game series too. Like they're those sabers with the crossguard hilts. Those are heat vents to let the heat out of the lightsaber. So it's like they were so uncontrollable. That's why it's all crazy looking too. It's just like
I just thought he was bad at making a lightsaber, and he tried to make his own, and he was shitty at it.
No, because I think even before that, he had his own lightsaber. He had
he had a blue one.
He had a blue one, and the red lightsaber. Just so people understand, it's not just because you're dark side. To make a red lightsaber, you have to corrupt a crystal by torturing it.
Right.
So that it goes. The red represents the crystals literally bleeding to death.
Yeah, and that's like not what. That's not how Kylo got his saber. We're not talking about Kylo Ren, although I love Kylo Ren.
He found one that was already red crystal. So
which kind of like is a real big foreshadow, which is good actually. That's great writing.
It's anyway. So Obi-Wan end of the Clone Wars, I think, or we're still going Clone Wars.
Yeah, we're about to jump into Revenge of the Sith. We're about to get there. So again, honestly, there's not too much, even though it's a long series, there's not much to cover with Obi-Wan because you basically just watch him be a badass like detective in general the whole time because he's smart boy. He's very smart in Clone Wars. He's got a lot of like missions where he sneaks around and figures things out and figures puzzles. He's a smart boy. So he's very Detective Obi-Wan oftentimes in it too. But that's about it. There's not much to go over except for the Satine stuff kind of. I mean, there's probably something I'm missing because there's always something I'm missing. But again, he's kind of just works as the straight character that helps guide the story along, where it keeps them on track. It keeps Anakin and Ahsoka kind of in tail because those two are like the crazy, woo, we're going to do whatever we want characters. Like, they literally just don't care. So we need the Obi-Wan who has the leash to be like, all right, kids, come on, let's go. You know, like how everybody puts their kids on leashes.
Yeah.
That definitely doesn't cause problems.
No, never.
Let's move on to Revenge of the Sith. Probably my favorite prequel movie.
Yeah, for sure.
That's pretty. I
honestly don't even know if it's debatable. I would take anyone else's argument on for that.
Yeah, I think it probably. I actually Actually, I didn't watch this one before the Lords. I watched Attack of the Clones and some Clone Wars stuff. But I meant to, and I'm probably going to maybe tomorrow. No, I have stuff to do tomorrow. Maybe this weekend. Because it's so good. But anyway, so at this point in the movie, at this point in the series, it's 3 years after Attack of the Clones. So, and in this one, you see Obi-Wan and Anakin like a lot older. Like, and it's almost like a good example of what war can do to you, because they don't look 3 years older. They look like another 10. Because like Anakin's hair is long. He's got scars on his face. He's all fucked up and shit. Obi-Wan's hair is turning gray. You know, he doesn't have the long, like, cool dude mullet anymore. He's got the, like, a short, like, proper men's haircut and beard situation going. He's Jedi Master now. You know, they're, like, they've been through some shit. And you can see that shit in Clone Wars.
Council member, too.
And Obi-Wan Kenobi is now a council member. So he's not just a Jedi Master. He's, like, top-tier Jedi Master. Like, his opinion matters. His plans and strategy matters. His knowledge of the Force matters. He's just up there and incredibly important to the Jedi Order, which is great. And that's my boy. He made it, man. He did it. He did the hero story and became the top of the food chain, baby. What could go wrong? Right?
Nothing.
What could go wrong? Nothing could go wrong. Except that his Padawan, is slowly losing his goddamn mind.
His former Padawan is having a lot of mental issues.
Yep, a lot of problems.
Which also something. I mean, of course, we could do a Vader episode someday, but just to say, I think another reason to point out as to why Anakin's losing his mind so much gets introduced in Clone Wars, which is his apprentice Ahsoka being framed for murder and then being kicked out of Jedi Order. Yep,
because he does not trust the Jedi Order at all in like Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
No.
Like, because in Episode 2, he's kind of just like, he's like, come on, upgrade me to Jedi Knight. I'm ready. Let's do this. Like, you know what I mean? He's very, like, ambitious, and he believes in the Jedi Order. But in Episode 3, he's, you know, that's why Palpatine's so easy to manipulate him, because he's like, no, my boy, it's all about the politics and the bullshit. The Jedi are stupid, dogmatic morons. You know, like, he's very, you know, snaky and persuasive. But again, there are things that the good guys, our friend Obi-Wan and the Jedi Order, did to push Anakin this way. Obviously, the big one that happens in Clone Wars, which is Ahsoka's framed for murder situation, which is terrible, because like it's kind of sad that wasn't canon beforehand, because I would have loved to have an Ahsoka reference in Episode 3. But like you know, Anakin just says what they did to my Padawan or something, you know. I don't know. I thought that would be cool, but obviously they didn't know that was going to happen, so it's not their fault. Although it would have been cool.
Yeah.
Well, fuck it. Add another deleted scene. I don't care. Even though they all look a lot older. So back to the Episode 3 stuff. So Anakin's kind of losing his mind. And at this point, too, Obi-Wan doesn't have like direct oversight over Anakin anymore. Like, they go on missions together still, but they're like, and he's still technically a Jedi Master, whereas Anakin is a Jedi Knight. So his orders are still a little bit prominent, like more prominent, but he's still Master Skywalker. General Skywalker. He's a general in the Clone Wars too. So in a lot of ways, Anakin has the same ranking that Obi-Wan does. And that is important to Anakin. That's very important to Anakin. Whereas Obi-Wan always kind of sees him as a superior, Anakin sees himself now as an equal. And in Episode 3, that paradigm starts to shift a little bit, because Obi-Wan is starting to really, truly trust Anakin as an equal, as opposed to like his inferior anymore. And that kind of shows with the last fight with like Count Dooku. You know, I mean, he's unconscious when he kills Dooku, so he literally doesn't see him do the thing he's not supposed to do. As far as Obi-Wan knows, he killed Count Dooku because he had absolutely no other choice. You know?
Yeah,
and that's exactly what
he executed him.
Yeah, like
do it.
Literally do it. Yeah, exactly. Obi-Wan is unconscious at this point, which totally blows. Like, so he didn't see it, and Palpatine probably just said, "Oh, he had no choice," and Obi-Wan went, "All right," you know. Like, he's like, yeah, I guess you're... Because why would Anakin lie?
Also, you know? Jedi and Sith usually fight to the death.
That is true. That is very, very true. Although Anakin, like Obi-Wan, would have taken him in, especially after removing both of his hands.
Yeah, at that time, he had a chance to. But, you know, like, if you look back at the Maul fight and stuff, there was no chance to. It's a fight. It's very believable, is the thing.
Very believable, yeah. Very, 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 very believable.
Sith don't give up. So if you don't disable them, you're killing them.
Yeah, exactly. And Anakin successfully disabled him, but didn't really give a shit.
Nope.
Like, do it.
Do it.
It's such a good line. You do a good one, man.
I can do Rise really good. That's about it.
Yeah. No, you will die. That's my best one, I think. No. Anyway, I'm glad we're getting some of our Star Wars meme bits. I can't believe this is still our first episode for Star Wars.
I know, it's crazy. I have one I'm actually working on, too.
Oh, great. I'm excited because this is such a vast and expansive universe that we haven't touched yet.
This is what we have to do with Star Wars. Specific, character focuses, not the overall thing. It's just too much or too little.
Too much.
What I mean?
Right. Agreed. Yeah. It's kind of like when I tried to do the World War II speedrun.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Anyway, back to Obi-Wan. In this movie, so we see, again, like I said, we see Obi-Wan at the top tier, top of the game, whatever. Trusted general, one of the most trusted generals, has the loyalty of his clones, cough, cough. They all love him. They're all like, Commander Cody's his boy. Like, let's fucking go. Let's go to Utapau and fuck up Grievous. Let's go. I love that's a whole great sequence on Utapau. I like the Utapau stuff. I also like that planet. Like, what a cool system that they have. Like, they're a crazy mining planet, but they just build their cities and they're in the giant holes, and some of them are thermal vents and shit.
Yeah. It's also the natives there are the race of the Grand Inquisitor.
That's correct, the Grand Inquisitor. But they're a little kind of not. They weren't really loyal to the Republic. They turned.
Yeah, they were Confederate. They were Confederates who decided they didn't like the Confederacy.
Right. So, it didn't go well. Although, and unfortunately, Utapau's story in episode 3 ends tragically with Order 66 dropping like a fat Jay-Z album. So that kind of sucked for Obi-Wan, because when Commander Cody went from what's up, boy? Here's your lightsaber back, homie. Love you. See you at dinner tonight. Oh, I'm gonna kill him. But we learned why, because they were inhibitor chips. So that's a great detail that I don't think people consider, because a lot of people were like, wait a minute, if clones were people, they could definitely see what was wrong with, Order 66. But if they had a chip in their head that literally was just kind of kill him.
It was a cybernetic implant to make them listen to a specific order to kill the Jedi.
Yeah. Right. And the only clones that didn't get it were the Bad Batch, well, except for one. But which is great, and I love that they added that. That there were some clone troopers out there that didn't actually get it forced into them. In the Clone Wars show, actually, Ahsoka Tano was able to remove the chip from Rex, which was really cool, and I thought that was a really interesting twist that they added. Do we ever find out what happened to Rex?
Yeah, he's in Rebels.
Oh, okay, he's in Rebels. All right, again, I just gotta watch Rebels, I guess. There's so much about. I saw one scene in Rebels. It's the Obi-Wan scene.
Yeah.
With Darth Maul.
His 3 seconds.
That scene is fucking amazing. Honestly, that Darth Maul Obi-Wan scene is that's when I considered it. I was like, oh, I might watch Rebels just because of that one scene, because it was just so good and so fast.
There's many reasons you should watch Rebels. But sure, it is, especially now, it is becoming very prevalent.
Right. There's probably a lot of references that I'd be like, oh. But yeah, so still on episode 3, we keep bouncing around, but there's so many references. That's what Star Wars is, referential. So where did I leave off in episode 3?
Utapau.
Yeah, Utapau, right. So he's on Utapau. He takes down basically the droid leader. He takes down General Grievous, which is not an easy thing to do. Hello there. One of the best delivered hello there's in film history. There's 3 that are my top 3, and they all come from the same character. Every other hello there and every other thing, not as good.
Nope.
Can't be.
No, you can't beat the original.
Alec Guinness. Yeah. Hello there. Fucking Alec Guinness, dude. So friendly, too, man. But Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor did such a good job encapsulating that spirit. Oh, it's such a good job. I love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan so much.
Yeah, one of the reasons why he not only he does a good job imitating. I'm not saying Sir Alec Guinness was a bad actor in any way. He was a fantastic actor and a legend, and he did a great Obi-Wan. But I would. This is one of the very few times I would love to see that movie done with old makeup. Ewan McGregor. You know what I mean? Like, I think he reinvented the character into the way that we know him now.
Right.
And it's so much different. Like, he's like the snarkiness and the attitude. Like, he wouldn't. I feel like this Obi-Wan as an old man would be more snarky, not less snarky.
Right. I guess so. I mean, he does get a little cold in Kenobi. Like, when we
but then he kind of...
show,
Yes, which I feel like they were trying to do that. They were having him lose his edge because of everything that happened. But then he starts to get it, but then he gets it back. So it's like,
right,
okay.
He gets his groove back. That's true. But that doesn't mean he moves on. Yeah. He doesn't move. He never moves on from the Anakin stuff.
He'll never win, not Darth.
Until his...
All right, so...
Yeah. My blade will find its mark, and you shall cease to exist.
So yeah, we left off with him killing Grievous, and then
Grievous.
The next time we see Obi-Wan after that is the Order 66.
Yeah, Order 66 is when he gets dunked on.
Yeah,
like,
during that
giant turret.
In between that time is when Anakin kills Mace Windu, and then
he goes from light to dark,
and then officially gets knighted as Darth Vader.
Yep.
And Anakin's gone.
And Anakin is gone. Darth Vader is born. What I like about that scene too, the one between Palpatine, Mace, and Anakin, even though this is about Obi-Wan, is I do like how Anakin is filled with regret, and then it slowly dawns on him that he's like, oh, I can't go back now.
Yeah,
I just fucked up and killed Mace Windu. Like, I can't go back. I have to embrace this, or I'm fucked.
And that's when you hear the rise from Palpatine.
Yep, that's it. And then he rises and becomes Darth Vader, and then goes and kills a bunch of kids.
Yep.
Man, what a scene in Kenobi, by the way.
Yeah. Also, way to get this is a video game. You're trying to get dark side points. No faster way.
Yes.
He's like, all right, we're gonna grind some dark side points. Give me kids. I gotta slaughter them.
Jesus Christ, let's go get some children. I like it how in that Obi-Wan Kenobi episode before it started, it was like, hey, there's going to be some images here that might be hard to see. And you literally see like a kid get cut down and you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
like,
it's...
like, you're like, oh, they did it. They actually like showed you. It's not like a super clear shot of a kid getting cut in half, but like you see the kid buckle and you're like, oh, Jesus.
It's
I'm
rough.
not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's just...
It's absurd.
A great scene. It's such a good scene. It's like,
Disney,
oh, shit.
Really? This is Disney?
Yeah, right?
Multiple times in that show, I'm like, Disney?
I'm glad they did it, though.
Yeah.
Like, good, because Disney's a bunch of pussy executives, so I'm glad they let them do that anyway, because it has to be. This story has to be dark. But anyway, because of this shit that happens, because Order 66 happens, and everything that Obi-Wan had and worked so hard towards his entire life comes crashing down. His Jedi Master status means nothing, and he's now seen as a traitor. He is now looked down on by a lot of people because of the propaganda that took place was that the Jedi Order attempted a coup and that like they wanted to take over and be the only rulers. And that's what basically now soon dubbing himself Emperor Palpatine was saying. He's like, oh, the Jedi's attempt at my life left me scarred and deformed, but don't worry, their coup is over. You know, he's like, they're not going to take over. We're going to be a free, you know, we're going to turn into an empire now because fuck them, basically.
Yeah.
We have the clones now. We have these guys. We have a massive army. We don't need the Jedi anymore. Let's kill them all, basically. And obviously not everybody was a supporter because there was actually a lot of star systems that were not down with this. But there were more that kind of were because a lot of them really liked Palpatine.
They really liked Palpatine. They saw him as a hero through a war. He led the Republic into a war for the first time in like thousands of years and did a good job of it. And they thought...
Seemingly.
And of course,
he's made it up.
Yeah, it's entirely fictional. He was a very good talker. That was the point. He was extremely charismatic.
Yep. He just knew how to talk his way into everything, and including Anakin's little brain palace.
Yeah.
You know?
And with not to downplay... Most of the reason why is because he's extremely powerful with the Force, and he's able to perceive people's emotions and control them. So that's how he's got so strong.
He was so strong, he could literally forbid all of the Jedi in the Jedi Temple from sensing his power.
Yeah.
Like, he was so strong, he's just kind of like, you guys, I'm just not going to let you sense me. That's how strong he was. He could just, like, kind of like in Dragon Ball Z, turning up and down your power levels. He just knew exactly how to keep his power level hidden from all the, like, even Yoda. Even though Yoda always knew something was up, that's what's nice about Yoda, is that kind of like, he's like, something's fucky and I can't quite put my finger. That's Yoda's
he always sensed the darkness, which is why in episode 1, when they find Darth Maul, he's like, okay, this is what I've been fucking feeling. Like, something is up. Like, they're back. The Sith are here. They're not as gone as I thought they were. Like, he's always that's why he's not surprised. He's not surprised when they tell him the information about Darth Maul.
Yeah, he's like, oh shit. like again, the only person who could probably in episode 1, I think Yoda could have probably beat the Emperor, but in episode 3, it was too much. It was much too much. I don't know.
I think they're about
Yoda
even.
was. I mean, they were basically. Yeah, they basically were.
The younger you get Palpatine, the stronger he is. So he's. I don't know. I think they'd be evenly matched.
That's fair. I mean, they kind of were in episode 3 when they fought, you know?
Yeah.
But, I mean, what's his name? Is his name Shev? It's Shev, right?
Yeah, Shiv. Shiv Palpatine.
Shiv. Yeah, Shiv, okay.
Or sure.
Yeah, Shiv ended up winning that fight, though. He just threw Senate seats at Yoda.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, his name is Darth Sidious, but everyone knows him as Palpatine. It's like Dooku. His name is Darth Tyrannus, but no one calls him Tyrannus.
Yeah, except for Django, because he's like, I was recruited by a man called Tyrannus on one of the moons of Bogdan, which, by the way, it's not canon anymore, which sucks, but we see the moon of Bogdan in the Bounty Hunter video game, and it's like one of the coolest fucking levels. It's so spooky.
Yeah, it could be canonized. It's one of those things, it's kind of like we were talking about with, like, the Obi-Wan romance. Like, there is zero reason for it not to be.
Right, yeah.
Kind of thing. So it's like, it might as well be.
It's such a good story.
It is.
Story is so good.
Yeah, there's zero reason nothing contradicts in Bounty Hunter. So it's like, I think that they're just kind of not touching it, because why? Like, it's there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see a bounty, like a Jango Fett prequel story, and it basically is the game. Like, I'd love to see that game turned into a series, because the game's so good.
I'm excited for the Acolyte show, because that's going to be the first show pre-Phantom Menace. I like seeing this, like, pre-Phantom Menace and in between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, like this era, the end of the Republic, you know?
Right. It's so, yeah, because I want to see, especially pre-Phantom Menace, I want to see the height of them. Because in the Phantom Menace is when they start kind of teetering and going downhill, basically from the get-go with the Trade Federation. It's already showing you the beginning of the problems. That's like the beginning of Phantom Menace is like, hey, it's the downfall. Like, this is the point when it starts to fall down. And then at the end of Revenge of the Sith, that's when it hits rock bottom. Like,
I think it's still the High Republic until the vote of no confidence. When Chancellor Valorum gets taken out. When he switches into Palpatine, that's when the High Republic becomes the Republic that's declining, you know?
Yeah. I was saying that, like, the conflicts that led to all of this, the pin moment is the Trade Federation surrounding Naboo.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of like, that was the very first pawn that Shiv played. Is like, all right, this is the first move.
That was the start of the plan. Yeah, exactly. You're right.
And then from everything from there. So yeah, again, Obi-Wan loses all of his status. He's done for. He has to go into hiding, basically. Otherwise, he's screwed. Thankfully, he finds Yoda, and they split up, and their goal is to basically, his job is to kill Anakin, and Yoda's job is to, like we were just talking about, to kill Shiv Palpatine, or Darth Sidious, or the Emperor.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call him, it's all right. And Obi-Wan is sent to kill his former Padawan, his kind of current brother and best friend,
or save him,
who he hasn't seen since before they left.
Yeah.
So, like, and before they left, they actually have a very touching scene.
Yes.
Like, they're about to split up, and Obi-Wan just looks at him in the face and says, like, I'm so proud of you. Like, he's like, you're so gifted. You're more like, you're the most powerful Jedi, but you're so, like, you're wise still. And Anakin needed that. Like, that was exactly what Anakin always wanted from Obi-Wan, and he got it. You know, he got everything, and it almost closes that arc between them. It really shows Anakin that Obi-Wan no longer views him as a student, but as a peer.
Yeah, exactly.
And that means the world to Anakin, because, like, that's all he ever wanted, but it wasn't enough. And here's the duality thing here, because this is what we were saying that went wrong with Anakin. Obi-Wan was a little too helicopter parenty and wasn't that, like, he didn't let him off of a short leash, which was a problem. And so didn't the Jedi Order. Now, Obi-Wan's motivation of keeping Anakin in his place was because, as we all knew, Obi-Wan knew about Padme and Anakin. But Obi-Wan supported it because Obi-Wan was taught by Qui-Gon Jinn, who always taught Obi-Wan that the rules are too much. So Obi-Wan knew that the rules were too much. So he let Anakin and Padme have their thing, but he was trying so hard to keep them in line. And that strictness is what led Anakin down the wrong path, was because he was so strict with him, only because he was so supportive, ironic. Like, that's the irony. Is like, he was supporting them.
But
also, he was trying to keep them down.
For the fairness of Anakin's sake, the reason he was taken down was a fucking lie implanted into his head by Palpatine.
Oh, well, yeah.
Saying I can save your wife in childbirth, which is not the case.
Yeah, that's the grand
that's the
lie.
thing that really pushed him. Like, that wasn't there.
Yeah.
He would have definitely sided with Mace Windu if he didn't think that was an option. You know what I mean? He just got convinced that, the dark side can save lives. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. There's no history of that ever, you moron. But no, you obviously make a good point. But these are all the things that led Anakin into his anger too. Because remember, he only learned that, the dark side can save lives right before he transitioned over to dark side. Yeah. Like, it was right before he switched. But before that, he didn't know. So like a lot of what led his anger towards the Jedi Order was, again, the thing with Ahsoka being framed, the Jedi Order itself being basically like kind of culty, like you follow the rules or you're out. And then there was Obi-Wan, who was trying to protect him, but simultaneously keep him in line, which ironically made him a helicopter parent and pushed Anakin away. So like these three things were already pushing on Anakin. And that, at that point, like, it was so much easier for him to snap. And then obviously there was like you pointed out, the big red flag, the whole lie that Palpatine told him. But like, there was a lot of factors involved with Anakin's, inevitable change.
Yeah, I just think that the final talk between them, I think, kind of dismissed the helicopter parenting. Like, I think that ended it for Anakin. Like, I think he was like, exactly. That part was like gone now. He's like, I did it. Like, I'm a knight. I'm a master. Like, I'm on my own person. And then Palpatine's like, hey, guess what I can do? And then just flipped it over. And I think he did that because he probably saw that he was losing his dark edge. Right.
Because he finally got one of the things that he wanted.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he couldn't reconcile with Ahsoka and the Jedi Order for those things.
Yeah.
And again, he was always kind of rejected by a lot of other Jedi, mostly Mace Windu. Like, Mace Windu was never nice to Anakin.
No.
I mean, he's not nice to a lot of people.
He thought Anakin was too young and too hot, which I get. Agreed. Yeah. He was. He was he was trying to rise too quickly.
Right. Totally. And Mace Windu was like, no.
Yeah,
and he's not the only one who had that.
No, absolutely not. But the thing, Yoda was like that too. But the thing is, it's just like, Yoda wasn't a dick about it. But
no, but Yoda was a lot nicer about it.
What they should have realized is Anakin was tempered into his masterdom through war, which is unique.
Yes.
None of them had that experience. He was a warrior. And that was something they should have respected, and they didn't. So
yeah. And somebody like Obi-Wan, though, was there with him. Again, he was 15 years older than Anakin, but he still had that same thing where he was able to, as you suggest, like when Obi-Wan became a master, it was in wartime. You know what I mean? Like, that's when he became a master. So he had a very similar experience, which is why they were allowed to relate so much. And that's great storytelling. Is like which kind of really leans into the idea that one of the only two people who could have probably brought Anakin from the brink in that moment would have probably been like Obi-Wan and Padme. And it wasn't until Padme saw him later on when it was too late.
Yeah, he was yellow-eyed.
Yeah, too far gone now. Sorry. But like, if she happened to have been able to talk, like, because when he got told to wait at the Jedi Temple, there's a great scene. Also, it's one of my favorite tracks, compositions in Revenge of the Sith from John Williams. There's a scene where Anakin and Padme are basically looking at each other from where they are. Anakin's at the Jedi Temple and Padme's at her apartment, and they're kind of like looking at each other via the like across the way. And there's a great song that's like playing. That's literally just like the sound of a man shattering.
It's literally playing right now on the live stream.
Oh, is it really?
I am not kidding. I have a lo-fi Star Wars thing going, and it's playing right now.
Yeah, it's a song that's so haunting and cryptic, and it just sort of like, and it, like I said, it represents a man shattering and becoming like just incomplete. But imagine at that time, Anakin went to Padme's apartment, or Padme went to Anakin.
Yeah,
he would not have gone to Palpatine.
No,
like he would have just been with her. Like, because she wouldn't have wanted him to go. She would have talked him out of it. She would have been like, no, stay here with me.
If he would have gone,
too much for you.
If he would have found out Palpatine was the Dark Lord and ran to Padme instead of Mace Windu, everything would have been different. Padme probably would have been like, don't trust a fucking word he says. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, are you absolutely out of your goddamn mind? Like,
yeah.
And the only other person was Obi-Wan, but he got shot off of a giant lizard.
Yeah, so he was struggling. So yeah, we got to Order 66. Obi-Wan is now tasked with fighting Anakin, and he arrives on Mustafar, Anakin's home for the future, and that's,
chosen home. Barely.
Yeah, and that's the big fight.
That choreography is like a dance.
It is the best saber fight ever made, in my opinion.
Here's where I agree and disagree. I agree with you that it's the biggest, most spectacular fight, bar none, no doubt about it. It is, as a sword fighter, it is a lot of the moves they do make no sense. However, you can chalk it up to the fact that they are super powered human beings, basically.
Also,
like they're literally
they're
physically
not fighting
and
with
mentally
swords.
strong.
They're fighting with lightsabers. Also, they're aiming for each other's lightsabers for choreography purposes. So
right. But for example, the Kenobi, like the last fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Kenobi series that just came out is one of the most accurate sword fighting fights they
and so you can tell in that fight scene that they're trying to kill each other, and also you can tell that they are the choreographers and directors learned from what you're saying, because that was a big criticism.
Exactly,
is that it's like watching a dance, like you said, not a fight to the death, but it's so long and it's so extreme and it's so well choreographed that the fact that both actors did it all. There's no stunt doubles; they are doing it. And it is so amazing.
And I agree, and that's where I agree with you. And I do think it's the greatest lightsaber fight of all time, because again, these are two of the most powerful Jedi that have ever existed, tempered by war in the prime of their existence, and they are just fucking hammering each other, and it's so sexy. But really though, it's a phenomenal fight, because like I said, you're seeing two Jedi at the top of their power, or two Force users, I should say, at this point. But one other reason why this scene is great is because leading up to the big fight is between Anakin and Padme. This is the sign that Anakin is already gone. Is the first thing that happens is once he sees Obi-Wan Kenobi in the ship, he automatically assumes the worst and accuses Padme of bringing Obi-Wan to kill him. And right out of the gate, Obi-Wan sees that, he is out of his mind. Because that's not at all what he's there to do. He's there to try to bring him home. Obi-Wan's there because he is desperately hoping in the back of his mind, please don't be evil now. I know I saw you killing younglings, but let me try one more time to bring you back. You might have to go to prison because you killed a bunch of kids.
Yeah, there's also you see Anakin's eyes. They've kind of not really touched on this since that movie, because this is pre-Disney with dark side corruption, which is when you go dark, it physically warps you, and they show his eyes are yellow, and they have a red ring around them, which is like, you're Sith now, you're too far gone, and Obi-Wan sees it. They show Obi-Wan look at his eyes, and he's like, "Fuck," you fuck. Not even. Although Dooku
he doesn't
was
fight
with
the contacts in. He doesn't fight.
I know. I know. That's a mistake, and also probably just maybe he couldn't wear them while doing all the choreography. But
that's what I think would probably.
It's because they did
a good job.
Yeah.
They did a good job with the makeup though, because when his line is like, "Don't make me destroy you," and the way he's looking at him, they did a great job of the makeup because he looks evil. Like, they did a great job representing, like, hey, just pretend he has the yellow eyes. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Also, I think he has them when he's all chopped up, right? He has the yellow eyes.
When he's burning and all chopped up, he has the yellow. And or before, even pre-burn,
I think it's just film mistake things. I think I'm pretty sure it's just what it's supposed to be.
And that's fine, whatever. But yeah, exactly. Like, Obi-Wan sees that he's far gone, and then like, and that's represented by the fact that he choked out his wife instantaneously. It's like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? He's turning you
against me.
Yeah. If you're not with me, you're my enemy. Again, dialogue, George Lucas. Come on, man.
The dialogue is so bad in that fight.
Yeah. I like the ending dialogue, I admit. I love the "You Are My Brother, Anakin, I loved you."
Obi-Wan's ending epilogue is fine. It's Anakin. Yeah. Anakin is just, come on.
Yeah. And that's not Hayden Christensen's fault.
No, it is not.
Hayden Christensen did a great job at playing this, like, angry motherfucker. Like, great, like, sincerely. Because, man, was he angry.
And he gets in Obi-Wan Kenobi show, he gets his turn for the ending epilogue.
Oh God, it's so good.
It is so good.
Oh, it's the best. It like, oh fuck. It confirms that everyone was wrong when they said he was a bad actor. When that criticism came out, they're like, "Oh, Hayden Christensen's a wet paper towel." It's like, no, he's not. It's the fucking dialogue.
Dude,
thank God for Kenobi.
The fucking all I'll say is the fucking smile.
Oh, right.
That fucking, I was like, oh, this fucker. Like when he says "I did," and you can see his face turn into a smile. It's like, oh, this guy, like he is so, like it was so good.
Yeah, he was like so happy, and like so he was like he was so happy, even though he lost that fight in Kenobi. Sorry, spoilers. Like, I mean, whatever.
This is about Obi-Wan. There's gonna be Kenobi spoilers. Just deal with it.
Yeah, kind of has to be.
Go watch the show. Like, come back to us.
Go watch. Yeah, come back to us. You could stop listening right here if it spoils. But when Obi-Wan beats Darth Vader in the final confrontation, Darth Vader almost kind of doesn't accept defeat because he wants to get one more jab in, and that's what he says to him. He's like, "I'm not going to win the physical fight, but I'm going to fucking tear you up one more time," and he does, because Obi-Wan leaves very fucked up because of that line.
Yeah, he's
like crying.
There's a transition there where he says, which I love for connecting it to New Hope as well. When he says, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did," and that's when you can actually see under the broken mask he smiles. The Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader underneath the helmet, like smiles. He said, like he's so proud that he killed Anakin Skywalker, and like I'm Darth Vader now. And then Obi-Wan refers to him as Darth, which is what he says in New Hope, which I always made fun of. I always made fun of that line. You never win, Darth.
It's fun. Which is his first name.
And then he says it. He goes,
it's like Obi-Wan never understood the concept of the Darth.
Like, he just leaves and says like, "Farewell, Darth." That's what he says at the end of Obi-Wan, and it's like because he's not Anakin anymore. He's just Darth Vader.
Right. Yeah, I remember laughing at that, but I actually laughed at that in Obi-Wan too because I also agreed and thought that was always a silly thing to call him. It's like, I mean, he, by the way, I would make that very clear. He does understand the concept of Darths.
Yeah,
he just kind of groups all Darths together.
He's also I think he's also spitting on it. Like it's just like you're take your dumb fucking little title, like that kind of attitude. Yeah. Like he's just like no one gives a shit. Like
right. I know we just jumped ahead a little bit because I wanted to talk about going back to episode 3 one more time. I swear, I did want to talk about the very amazing like story they told within the fight because the fight itself is a 3-act play. The beginning fight is, I mean, physically they're moving faster and they're just doing like the flashiest moves they can. The middle of the fight is when they start using a lot more force technique and a lot more like, okay, I'm here now to beat you instead of show off. I'm going to try to beat your ass. And then the end of the fight is they're exhausted. When they're floating above the lava pit on those two, one of them's on the platform, one of them's on the droid, they're exhausted. Their movements are slower. Their outfits, if you even pay attention, are fucked up and burned. They're literally burned by lava. Like lava's burned them both a few times. Like if people think that like, how did they not get burned at all? It's like, they did. They just fought through it.
Which fun little thing. The burn marks in Obi-Wan's clothes are there in A New Hope.
Yeah. Like, it's literally part of it. They did get very hurt through lava as well. They just fought through it because they're, again, kind of incredible. And you could always just say like, the Force protected him.
Well, I mean, it didn't get like physically burned, except, of course somebody did eventually. But it's just, I think the heat, of course it got him. But when you're a focused warrior with Force powers, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And that by the end of that fight, as we all know, the famous scene, I have the high ground. You you underestimate my power. Don't try it. Fun fact, in the episode 3 video game, you can have it where Anakin successfully jumps over him and stabs Obi-Wan and kicks him into the river of lava. And then Anakin... fun fact. Non-canon, obviously. But good what if. Fun what if. But yeah, so Anakin loses the fight, burns to hell, and Obi-Wan picks up his lightsaber and leaves. Obi-Wan is under the impression that he is dead. He does not think that Anakin is alive.
Anakin is literally limbed and on fire, by the way.
Yeah. So it's pretty fair for him to be like, yeah, he's dead. He's not, though, because he's Anakin Skywalker, and to be fair, he is still technically the chosen one. And the Force, and he's so goddamn powerful, the Force is like, I want to keep you alive.
Darth Maul was able to survive being halved through hatred.
Yep, yeah, that's true. Palpatine finds him, regenerates him. Also, bear in mind, the reason why he wears the suit is not just because he doesn't have any limbs anymore, it's because his insides are fucked up, too. Mm-hmm. He was literally on fire. His lungs don't work. Like, they literally just don't work. So he needs the suit to stay alive. Like, he's still as powerful as he always was. He has the same brain and heart and stuff. He still probably needs to eat, I imagine. Or the bacta tank just solves all that.
I think it does. I think it pumps him with he has like nutrient injections.
Jesus Christ. What a life. What a sad fucking life. He doesn't even enjoy food. I was like, technically I've never seen him eat
there's
anything,
no fucking joy in Vader's life.
Yeah,
he is just an entity of hatred and anger.
Yeah, basically. Until Luke comes along and finally softens that heart. Anyway, give me my nutrient injection. But anyway, so Obi-Wan beats Anakin. Anakin burns up. Obi-Wan flies away and basically acquires the mission of watch over baby Luke on Tatooine. And then that's when we find him in Kenobi, where he is basically a shattered human being. Again, like I said, the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan, top of the game, baby, top of the food chain, one of the most powerful Jedi Masters that ever existed, Jedi Council, General of the Grand Army of the Republic. Holy shit, how could you get any more? Fast forward 10 years, shattered, broken man living in a cave.
Living in a cave in a desert, working as a great dragon butcher.
Yeah, right. Like, he's literally just butchers meat and steals, by the way.
He steals meat because he can't afford food.
Yeah, like, he eats some himself and he gives the rest to his...
by the way, love the connection to Episode 7. They show them getting the ration packs.
Right, yeah.
With like their little tiny bits of money they have. They get those same little things that you see Rey get in Episode 7 where she puts it in the water and it turns to like bread. Same thing.
I loved that. By the way.
Yeah.
Ration packs are the coolest little thing. That
it just makes so much sense for worlds like that. You know what I mean? Like that kind of... There's no food. You know what I mean? You're not growing food on Tatooine.
No, you're not. They're moisture farms.
Yes.
They literally, because that's what they have to do. They have to pull the moisture from the ground and from the atmosphere in order to drink water because there's nowhere else, which is insane. Though Tatooine did used to have oceans.
Yep.
It did used to have oceans. And there is water underground.
Yeah, and you can see in Boba Fett the flowers that they dig up, which explains how Tusken Raiders get water. So that was a great little thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they're like basically desert plants. They're kind of like think of them just like not coconuts,
cactus.
Cacti.
Yeah, they're cactus that are underground and they're full of water. There's water pods.
It's cool. I mean, apparently the water is kind of nasty, but
I'm sure it is.
But it hydrates you.
Yeah.
So that's all that matters. I wonder if it's sweet or sour.
I would assume it's probably very bitter.
Yeah, like coffee.
But but it's still water, and that's what you need. So.
Right. Exactly, and that's all they need. So again, we find Kenobi as a butchered and broken man, and it's not until he's recruited. I'm not gonna, again, I don't want to spoil too much, even though I spoiled the ending to this already, but like, there is, great, again, the first episode is just a great scene of showing you how absolutely desolate and broken this man is. It's like the entire episode, basically, up until like he gets reached out by Bail Organa. Bail Organa reaches out to him and is like, "Yo, dog, my daughter's missing, and it's one of those kids, you know, the Skywalker kids. We have to make sure that Vader does not fucking find out who this is." Like,
I think we could just, if we want to go like a spoiler-free little Obi-Wan summary, Obi-Wan is trying to rescue Princess Leia from a kidnapping,
right?
While avoiding the Inquisitors, which we were introduced to in the Rebel show, which does take place after this, right. Which are an order of dark Jedi trained by Palpatine and Vader in minor, I guess, mostly trained by the Grand Inquisitor, organized by Palpatine and Vader, and trained in minor dark side powers so that they always remain below Vader and Palpatine. Yeah. That's basically the plot of the show.
And their job is basically hunt the surviving Jedi.
Yeah, hunt the surviving Jedi. So they're hunting Obi-Wan. One in specific, named Reva, or Third Sister, is obsessed with Obi-Wan and trying to capture him for Vader. And that's probably what we should just say for the plot of Obi-Wan, because it is still new. I do recommend you watch it. And yes, there is. I will just say there is, as you mentioned before, there's Obi-Wan and Vader fight, and it's great.
And it is one of the best lightsaber fights, in my opinion, in Star Wars history.
For sure.
Next to the Episode 3 fight, next to the Episode 5, 6 fight. I love Episode 7's fight, too. I think Episode 7's is phenomenal.
Yes.
The Forest fight. But anyway, in Kenobi's arc is basically that of a defeated man to turning back into a man of duty, is the best way to say it.
Yep.
Like, he understands his purpose. He understands he still has purpose, and he continues on. Which, again, I don't know if we're going to get more Kenobi. It sounds like we probably will.
I believe we are, yes.
Yeah, which I'm fine with, and I would love that, because I loved the show, and I would love more. And what's her name? Deborah Chow.
What's her last
name? Deborah Chow.
Yeah.
If she does it again, great.
Fantastic.
Like,
Fantastic, yeah.
Fantastic. Like, let's keep going.
I think she's doing the Acolyte show, too.
Great. Happy to hear it. But for what we have right now for the Kenobi show, 9 years pass into A New Hope. And you see a lot of the end of Kenobi Obi-Wan with the beginning of A New Hope Obi-Wan. You see that kind of like, he's still a man who wants to fulfill his duty despite how old he is. He's still always looking after Luke. Like when Luke gets knocked out by the Tusken Raiders, who's there to pick up the slack minutes later? Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Obi-Wan's got an eye on him. You know, he's always there for him. He teaches him the ways, and he does a better job teaching Luke than he did with Anakin, because he learned all the lessons of his previous mistakes. Even though they don't train for that long together.
And Luke's a terrible student.
Oh, Luke is an awful... Luke, I love... Luke's one of my favorite Star Wars characters because he has a great redemption arc, because he's a nightmare at the beginning.
Luke is one of my favorite Star Wars characters for making a 0-point charisma character your main character.
Yeah. But I was going to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Yeah, it's
like, oh my God, you're the main character?
Yeah, exactly.
But by Return of the Jedi, Luke is, I am a Jedi, like my father before me. Great fucking line. Oh, one of the best lines in Star Wars history. Oh, so good. Like, or I have to save you, you know, like his desperation to save his dad at the end. Oh, it's so good. But yeah, so we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is like now an old man in A New Hope, and his basically just wants to make things right, make all of his mistakes right by instilling what he knows in the son of his former best friend, his former brother, and his former Padawan, Anakin. He wants to train Luke Skywalker and make sure he does a good job, and he does a good job. Luke does a good job, and Obi-Wan is a huge part of that, because Obi-Wan taught him the beginnings. He taught him the basics.
Obi-Wan also stays he stays to teach him through the next two movies too.
Right. He just comes back as a ghost. Which is a little teased in A New Hope after Obi-Wan bites it. He still talks to him, which is nice.
Luke,
but that's great. Run, Luke, run.
Use the Force, Luke.
Look, you switched off your targeting computer. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm all right. I have the cadences down for that.
We didn't mention what happens at the end of New Hope.
Oh, the death?
Yeah, Obi-Wan gets killed.
Of course, we're getting there. Spoiler alert, Obi-Wan dies in A New Hope. But the reason why this is so important is because this is the final confrontation between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Darth Vader finally, quote unquote, beats him. However, to be fair, Obi-Wan gives up because he understands what really is at stake here. And maybe even understanding the lessons that you learn for seeing your mentor die, because Luke watched Obi-Wan die the same way that Obi-Wan watched Qui-Gon die, from too far away to help. Mm-hmm. He couldn't do anything. Like, he was, Obi-Wan was behind that force field. Luke was 50 yards away? Yeah. And he didn't have any force powers. He had a rifle on him. Good for you. And there was nothing he could do about it. And it showed the severity of the situation. It showed how powerful Darth Vader was in that moment, And Obi-Wan did an all right job fighting against Darth Vader. He had to adapt to his later years, so he had to make sure that his moves were exactly where they needed to be. That actually is a fight represented. That's the one thing that I saw from Rebels, is the Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan fight, because it doesn't last very long. And it shows you that Obi-Wan had to adapt to a new style of fighting, where he's like, I'm old now. I can't fucking jump around and do what Yoda used to do. I spent too many years just sitting around on Tatooine. So I have to make sure that if I'm going to make a move, the Force is going to guide me and I'm going to kill you. The only person who probably could have beat him is Darth Vader, because, Darth Vader's more machine now than man.
Vader's also extremely powerful and just stronger than him in general. So especially when the age happens, it's not even a competition.
Yeah, and Vader's 15 years younger than Obi-Wan.
Exactly.
Bear that in mind. So, that's a big fucking deal. So... which is crazy to think about, that Vader is only in his 40s the Star Wars saga.
Vader is the age of Obi-Wan from episode 3 in episode 4.
Yeah, which is cool. It's cool. It's a cool detail.
You'll never win, Duff.
You never win, Duff. My blade will find its mark. I think that was actually a dropped line from the actual movie, but that was part of his dialogue in the original script. But yeah, that's kind of the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi, because he eventually, like I said, he sacrifices himself to teach Luke one final lesson and to give them the chance to escape, because his death, because Vader cared so much about killing Obi-Wan, Vader did not really give two shits about, the escapees. He was so in the fight that he's just nope, I'm going to buy you guys enough time to get on the ship and get out of there. Yeah. And that was very lucky that he did, because... That would have been bad.
But he is a consistent character through 5 and 6 as well.
Yes, he does teach as the teaching role. He doesn't have any growth or anything. He's just kind of
he's the old sage who's a ghost who shows up when he needs to talk to Yoda and Luke.
That's right.
And then he also gets us an appearance in episode 7 when he yells at Rey when she's going down a dark side vision trip. He gets her out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because she goes near Anakin's lightsaber and everything bad attached to that kind of attacks her.
Right.
Probably due to her now, we'd understand lineage. And then...
that makes sense.
At the end of 9, he also calls out to her and gets her up again.
Right, he's one of the voices.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obi-Wan is a constant force... in the Force, I guess.
Yeah.
Because he was, like I said, he was one of the most powerful Jedi that had ever existed. And he was just a man of basically you can try to do everything right, and you can almost do everything right, and it still won't work out.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of what he was. Because he did, again, he had a couple mistakes with raising Anakin, as a master, but
overall,
not that much. Anakin,
his life,
not bad.
Obi-Wan's life overall is an exemplar of what you should be as a Jedi.
Right, exactly. Lenient, empathetic, powerful and ambitious, but still lighthearted and trying to keep a good joke going here and there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones was when he was pissed off at Anakin in the Geonosis pit, and he's just we came to rescue you, and he's like, good job.
Yeah.
It's even in times of stress, he's still ready to drop some sass, and I'm like, that's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He seems on top of things.
Yeah. What about Padme? She seems on top of things. But yeah, so that's kind of the Obi-Wan story that I wanted to tell. Again, as a character, as a writer, he is his arc is phenomenal. it goes to great heights only to crash and burn so miserably, only to then have his redemption. Similar to Anakin, because Anakin has a very similar story, only his crash is a lot more brutal
he goes
and less depressing.
A little more child-killing, you know?
Yeah. His is a little bit more like, oh, Jesus. I'd say his is more tragic, whereas Obi-Wan's is more depressing. Because Obi-Wan is just like, this poor guy. Oh, this poor guy. He just did his best, man. He just did his goddamn best, and everything sucks.
Obi-Wan's a great guy who did great things, who got handed a shit plate by fate and dealing with something that was too much to ask for anyone to deal with, really.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think, but he handled it with grace. He handled it mostly with a smile on his face, again, until like the beginning episodes of Kenobi. And then he saw a new hope in Luke Skywalker. Oh, I nailed it. I fucking nailed it. And so he really wanted to, so he redeemed himself one last time by setting out a good annoying, but good boy, to face the same fate as his father. But instead of facing the dark side and losing, he triumphed. I am a Jedi, like my daddy before me.
And then for some reason, completely out of character, gets dogmatically obsessed with the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the end of the story of Obi-Wan. Any last wrap-ups for that?
I want more Kenobi. That's it.
Yeah, I think I'll say this. The ending of Kenobi opens up more for a season 2 than I thought we had before it, seeing the end. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
I thought it would be like a wrap-up, and it is not. Like, there's more like open, and everyone loved it, so I think we're going to get it. We're going to get it.
Yeah. I had such positive reception. Oh, man. I saw some haters on Twitter, but I don't care. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lore Lords tonight. Our first Star Wars episode. I'm really glad to be able to kick it off. I'm glad to have done an episode. It's been a while since I did one. I don't know what my last one was. I'd have to look. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll see you next week with something new. And also, both Warhammer episodes 1 and 2 have dropped on YouTube. I put them out at the same time last night because we missed a week last week, and it's literally over 4 hours of Warhammer encyclopedia stuff. So I figured it'd be a good idea to drop them together.
If you're into that, listen to it. If you're not, you can skip it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I figured 2 weeks of 2 hours worth of Warhammer would be a little much. So I was like, I'll put them both out. Next week's is Doctor Who, is the Doctor episode. But anyway, y'all, see y'all again. Thank you so much. I love you. And post-show time.
Thanks for listening.